I met Daryl Jones because I got an invitation to go to a meeting down at Bridgewater Correctional Center. And the actual invitation came through Darren from Chuck Turner's office. So he called me up and he said, "You've been requested to come to this meeting at the prison." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, there's a number of guys down there, and they've actually taken a look through the newspapers. They've been following what's happening outside, and they want to talk to folks who are involved working with youth." And so I went down to this meeting, and there was a group of about 20 inmates when we came in, and there were some folks from the Department of Corrections at this meeting. And I came in with a group of, I think, 10 other folks, including like Don Muhammad from the Nation of Islam. I think there was a number of other social service people present, and the person who was running the meeting was Daryl Jones. So he had organized the meeting, and he was the primary person who had selected people to come to the meeting, and yeah, so that's how I met him. Daryl had been working with this group of inmates, and I guess they had been meeting to talk about things that they could do together. And really, through that conversation, what came out that day, there were a number of things. I mean, they talked a lot about prisoner rights and things that weren't in the prison that they needed and that sort of thing. But they also talked about wanting to be powerful in a positive way in the community. And they talked about wanting to create some kind of a video to talk to youth. And I was in the process of organizing the peace conference at that time, and I said that I could help them with that. And there was sort of an immediate positive response, both from Daryl and the guys who were there, because it was something very concrete that we could do together right off. And we could, in fact, the peace conference would give you an opportunity for these men to talk to, whatever, 700 youth who would be in attendance at the peace conference. The people from the Department of Corrections also had a positive response on that day. And so that's how it came about, and we began to plan after that. Well, I came to do well, first of all, the Department of Corrections insisted that I use somebody from the Department of Corrections to do the videotaping. So I did not come with a video guy, I just came myself. I showed up on the day. I actually didn't know exactly really how it was going to happen. So my vision of it was I was going to go there and I was going to be having conversations with one guy and then another guy we brought in and so forth. So, but in fact it was very different. We were in the chapel and all the guys were present. And there was a little bit of, one guy wasn't here and a guy who wasn't supposed to be there was there and so forth and so on. There was a little bit of confusion when we got there. But we soon started, and basically I did one interview after another for about 3 hours in a row. And all the guys were there watching the interviews. So that was a really cool process, because what was happening was as the interviews were going on, they were getting deeper and deeper as if people listened to each other's stories, right? So they were sort of motivating each other. Daryl was organizing it. He was kind of ordering it, who was coming up next and that sort of thing. Daryl came up to me and he said there was something that Anthony wanted to say in addition. And he explained to me that Anthony was the guy who had shot Kiely, accidentally, actually, shot a bullet in the air that ended up crippling this young kid, and that Anthony wanted to address that issue. And so could he come back up again? And so he came back up. The video itself and the apology both are, very compelling. And the young people who have seen it have been affected by it positively, I think, very positively. It was really well received when we did it at the peace conference. People really paid attention to it. Every workshop that we've done with it, people have really been engaged and had very deep conversations off of it. And then I think the reason the video is so effective and the apology is so effective is because the men are so sincere and they're so direct. And it's not rhetoric. They're not kind of saying, be good, or what happened to me is going to happen to you. They're talking about their lives in a really deep way, and what they've learned and what they've paid for their mistakes, and really trying, I think in a very sincere way, to give young people a vision of what's actually at stake in going to prison. The level of leadership that Daryl took in this process was incredible. I don't actually know how he did it. I'm like, you know, kind of mystified that like he got all these people together, and you know, we're in this room. You know, here I am. I'm sitting in my office one day, you know, and now, you know, somehow he got me to come down to the prison, and I'm not the only one, and the public officials, you know. I think there was somebody from Yancey's office there, Counselor Yancey. There was, I think Chuck might have been there himself on that particular day. You know, there were people from the DOC there. You know, there were, you know, other social service people. Emmett Fogard was there, for instance, and as I said, Minister Don Muhammad was there. So there was, I was mystified. You know, it was an incredible amount of organization that went in. And I know that Daryl worked on it for years, is what he told me. You know, there's a lot of work being done. And, you know, just to bring the prisoners together, to get them to have the conversations that they had in preparation for the meeting. And then, you know, to have every step take place. So I don't actually understand how Daryl stays so in touch with the world around him, because, you know, it's very difficult. Obviously, he doesn't have internet. He doesn't have, you know, there's a lot of things he doesn't have. You know, he doesn't have access to telephones every minute and all that. So yeah, there's a high level of organization that's and leadership that's being that was used by him to pull people together. I think sustaining this kind of effort is important. I really think it's a big mistake on both sides of the wall to disconnect people from society. It's hurting society, and it's hurting obviously hurting the people who are being disconnected. And you know, corrections should be about corrections. You know, it shouldn't be an ironic name. It should actually be, you know, okay, these are people who need something. Let's figure it out, you know, and how do we work to return people to society? And I mean, you know, all the politics and the conservative and punishment and all the rest of that stuff, that might feel good emotionally, but, you know, they're so concerned about their freaking pocketbooks, right? Well, you take a look in your pocketbook, it isn't going to be empty. We cannot afford this as a society, and we are really hurting ourselves with this this approach, you know, of making some people the enemy and just demonizing them for all. And what I saw in the video, clearly that all of these guys have something to offer, and some of them have a lot to offer, and we're just wasting it.
Amen. I'm just starting to read this book, When the Prisoners Ran Walpole.
Yeah, oh my God.
Have you read it?
I haven't, but I remember When the Prisoners Ran Walpole.
I had to stop reading it because it made me feel like I'm running in quicksand, in the sense that the statements that were made could have been written yesterday.
Yeah, right.
You know how, like, there was a commission and it established that the Department of Correction is more about control than corrections and this and the that, and I'm like, wait, when was this written?